Hey, what's up, friends and family? How we doing? So this is Steven again. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Herbs. Again, I apologize. Completely out of the studio. Loving the new neighborhood, but still working a lot to get all the snake room and everything set up. So in the meantime, doing a little strolling. We've got this little runoff channel that goes down there that fills up with, looks like about 3 feet of water. It gets a lot of water birds and stuff. So I was just doing a quick stroll right here after work one day, and I got to thinking about some of the laws and legislations coming up, and I've got some really unpopular opinions, I think. I don't know what bird that was. If anyone could hear it, let me know. But I've got some really unpopular opinions, I think, and I didn't want you to think that those were my only opinions. So I want to start this video off by saying I support USARK. I'm just a bronze member at their easiest tier. I think what they do is incredibly important. There's a link in every one of my videos to join USARK and to join USARK Florida. Why Florida? Because they're at the forefront of so many reptile laws that fighting down there, as well as importation for so many species in this country, the fighting for your rights down there and fighting for the ability to keep these super awesome animals, and I'm talking about reptiles in general, it's important to support USARK Florida. So I donate to both groups. They're important to me as a reptile keeper and someone who's on the YouTube making content. But I wanted to address something, and I think it's really relevant right now with the political climate as well. Is if someone's on your side, you don't have to agree with them every time. For instance, if you're typically conservative and the new leader of your party is a fascist, you don't have to follow him, okay? You can stand up. You don't have to die with them on that hill. But we don't want to join into that too much or jump into that too much. So I'm going to jump back to USARK. One of the latest alerts right now is based on a venomous snake ban that's going into effect in South Carolina, or is going to be voted on in South Carolina. USARK puts out, of course, a bulletin, and they want everyone to write in completely opposing it. And I actually thought to myself, why do we need to keep a venomous snake? So where I live in California, we can keep native venomous with a fishing license. There's a bag limit. A couple species are prohibited, but there's a couple species are permitted, but there's no general ownership of venomous snakes. And as a result, we don't send police, we don't send animal control. There's no high alerts, there's no community alerts when these animals escape, because frankly, they're not really kept out here. There's a few people I know that do have them illegally, but they're few and far between. And for the most part, they're extremely aware of the facts that will get them to lose their animals and potentially do jail time. So they're very particular and very upstanding keepers. But the law works really well. And frankly, what doesn't work is no regulation whatsoever. I made a video a couple years ago on the silliness of self-regulation. There's always the myth that everyone wants to say is that reptile keepers need to self-regulate. And don't worry, you don't need to make any reptile laws for us. We're gonna go ahead and regulate ourselves. And frankly, guys like the man in South Carolina who's bit by the inland taipan, I know his name, I just don't want to talk about his name. He's a direct reason why these laws are coming into effect. It was national headlines. We all saw it coming. But there's more of this coming. There's a Tiger King style documentary going to be coming out about reptiles. And in every single instance, when those documentaries came out, Chimp Crazy and Tiger King, federal laws went into place banning ownership of those animals. Now, don't get me wrong, chimps and tigers are completely different than reticulated pythons, let alone a corn snake. So where am I going with this? And this is going to be sort of a rambling, unedited video, so I apologize to those of you who are used to my normally extremely high value videos. It's a little sarcasm. But where am I going with this? I feel oftentimes USARK stands in opposition to advancing welfare for animal species and for common sense regulation. They tend to take a stance that all laws will lead to a slippery slope against pet ownership in general. And frankly, I think that's a little bit of fear mongering. I love USARK. Again, I support USARK. And I honestly, if I was in their shoes, I would do the exact same thing, because their reason is the same reason why I'm going to support regulations on venomous snakes in South Carolina, is because people are stupid. Let me say that again. People are stupid. All right? You may be smart, but people are stupid. So the reality is, Jeff should have never had those snakes. He should have never had them. He can't properly keep them. He had them in little gross Tupperwares, and they were all neglected, and some were dead as a result of his inadequate care. And on top of it, they weren't safely kept either. There was an instant, he wasn't the first keeper to lose them. You guys might remember a spitting cobra that was on the loose in South Carolina a few years back as well. And it's just, irresponsible keepers will always exist. We can self-regulate all we want. We can watch all the YouTube videos we want and make all the promises we want and learn and be good. But there's still gonna be some guy or girl, usually a guy, who goes out and picks up the first scariest reptile they could find and, again, makes national headlines because they don't know what they're doing. They messed up, they got hurt, or they got someone else hurt. And frankly, the people we need to stop are the stupid people who encourage this. It's not just one guy. This guy has thousands of viewers. His channel is way bigger than mine. and frankly, if I did that, I could go pick up, I see rattlesnakes all the time in the spring and summer. I can make a video with every single one of them and free handle half of them. And frankly, I could get really good views doing that. But that is stupid. One, it's stupid. It's gonna hurt me. I'm 40 years old, I know better. But two, it's stupid for the hobby. It makes us look like idiots when we do idiot things. And frankly, that's when other people have to come in and play the role of mommy and daddy and fix us because we do stupid stuff. So the government comes in and plays mommy and daddy and tells us we can't own this and that. And USARK comes in and plays mommy and daddy and says they could own whatever they want and don't make any laws whatsoever. And because that's the situation we in, we get so black and white that you can't be right, but also somewhat wrong. And I just want to say that those of you who think that way, broaden your minds a little bit, because there's a lot of room for nuance. There's room for nuance in keeping reptiles is touching anything. It's that, one size fits all just doesn't work. And I urge everyone to be a lot more open and use common sense. Support USARK. They're out there fighting for us, and I'm glad that they take the bargaining stance of no new laws. That's where you have to start in every single negotiation, and I'm glad that they start there. But there's also been occasions when they stand up against regulation, against updating permit standards to include cage sizing for reptiles, which they argue is, they usually argue with outdated welfare information to support that. And it seems that they're on the side of the keeper, which is awesome because that's who pays their bills. But at the end of the day, we also have to remember that we're on the side of the animals, and that's the whole point, is that we're here to, we're an invisible arc or whatever, or just appreciation, but we've got to keep that in mind too. So that's just it. I don't know if there was a sole purpose for this rant other than to say I have an unpopular opinion and get some clickbait views. But what do you think? Are any of these laws, obviously there's some overreach, but how do we get regulation without any sort of laws? Because self-regulation doesn't work. So if you're going to comment, we just self-regulate the hobby, you're dangerously close to being blocked. Because it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It's never happened. It's never happened in any industry or hobby successfully. Not in one that's grown this big. It's got to be very, very niche for that to work. So the very, very niche hobbies that are much smaller can be self-regulated. But even things like falconry gets heavy government restrictions and permitted, and that sort of thing. So I just don't see it. I don't see it without government regulations. And at the same time, I want to know, how do you feel about USARK? Should they be more flexible and be able to help craft responsible regulation? Or is it really the only thing they could do is say no to everything? I don't know. I think there's room for nuance. And I always think there's room to stand up for what you believe in. There's going to be a lot of that coming up in the next 4 years, totally outside, unrelated to reptiles. As honestly, our country undergoes some completely unprecedented and never before seen changes. The only countries that have experienced changes like this are Russia before Stalin, Germany before Hitler, and why can't I think of where Hugo Chavez was, down in South America? And it's really scary to see the dismantling of democracy and consumer protection across the board in Washington, D.C. So I think right now there's so much polarization, left, right, and you're either one or the other, that I really see it carrying over into reptiles, and it's so frustrating. So this is just me calling, asking people to stop and think, instead of just showing up already with the judgment. And when it comes to some of these laws that ban venomous reptiles, there's no Second Amendment protecting them. So there's no argument. It's 100% a constitutional privilege to own any kind of pet. And so I just don't see how we as Americans want to claim it's a right and that we're being infringed upon. But I'm curious to your arguments on that as well. So if you got any thoughts on it, love to hear them in the comments. Sound off. But otherwise, just keep it classy. I'll see you guys soon. I'm going to try and come up with some videos every week to post on this channel. So I do appreciate you guys all sticking with me. The channel's been just slightly ticking up and up and up, and I'm so grateful to have more and more people listen to what this idiot has to say. So thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one.